Hello, this is HCBailly, and welcome to my latest blog video. I got a new camera since last time because, well, the other one busted on me after one video, apparently. So, well, I got a new one, so if I look or sound a little different, that's why. But today I wanted to talk about two things, both Historia related, actually. First, I'd just like to respond to what you guys said about the Radiant Historia LP, and I'm glad you guys all enjoyed it. It's certainly one of my favorite LPs that I've ever made, really. Just the response was very, very positive. So I'm happy you guys all enjoyed it, and so many of you guys decided to buy the game. For those who are still looking to buy the game, one thing I wanted to spread the word on is that Atlas has actually made a Twitter post recently asking if you guys would like to see another print run of the game. So those of you who don't want to spend $70 or $80 for it, you wouldn't have to. So I'm going to put a link in the video description there to their Twitter post that they made there, and let them know, hey, you want another print run of the game, so they can keep on making it. I'm surprised that it's been selling as well as it has been. I heard it sold like about just under 100,000 copies in the United States. So yeah, I mean, for a game that was so obscure, I'm very pleased with how well it's doing, and I hope they keep on making more JRPGs like that, or other companies would learn from them. Let's see, for the other thing I wanted to talk about was Final Fantasy 13-2, because I know a lot of you guys have been asking me about that, and I have been playing it for a little while. I actually bought the game on Amazon to get the Omega downloadable content, and it just so happened that when I made the Radiant Historia text walkthrough on GameFAQs there, I got a gift certificate, so I used that to buy it on Amazon. So that all kind of worked out very nicely. Now, just to preface my experience in the game, I've only played about the first 7 hours of the game. I haven't seen the big bad yet, beyond the intro, obviously. So I haven't really seen that much of the game yet. So these are just my first impressions of the game. Maybe I'll play more, maybe not, I don't know. And also, I did really enjoy the first game of Final Fantasy 13, so that's kind of what I was expecting more so in this game. One thing about the graphics that I noticed was obviously they're not quite up to par with the first game. I don't know why, but for the most part, it's fine. I mean, I'm not a graphics whore here. The characters, or at least the main characters and the backgrounds and the environments, those all seem really good. The only time I really noticed the decrease in the graphical quality was with NPCs, but let's be honest, they're NPCs, so who cares, right? And they're almost PlayStation 2 quality, but whatever. I don't care about that at all. The music, I really do like the new battle music. That's the one that and that's pretty important when you're going to be in so many battles across the game. I like it better than the first game. The rest of the music, I can't really say that much about it because a lot of it is the same as the first game, and it's not extraordinary. I mean, it's nothing that knocks my socks off like Radiant Historia or anything like that. So it's there. I heard a couple songs that kind of that I haven't seen in the game, but some people made links to it in my forums, and so a couple people noted a couple songs that I might not care for, but for the most part it seems okay. It seems to be doing what I want it to do. Let's see, now the plot is, well, as you know from any other reviews that you've seen, the plot is really slow. But actually, as far as the time travel thing, I'm totally fine with that. Now, to be honest, I am a hardcore Star Trek fan, so I've seen the whole plot lines blending together, whatnot. So I've seen that, so I understand that. If you're playing the game for the first time and you don't understand it, I wouldn't fret too much over it. Just go walk around, kill the monsters, get the treasure, move on with the game. I really wouldn't think about it too much because, I mean, to be honest, I think it's one of those things where you either get it or you don't. I mean, it's not like someone's going to walk up to you, explain what's going on, and say, oh, now I get it. No. I mean, it's either something you're into or you're not. So maybe take that with a grain of salt there. The thing that I most notice about the plot, and this was a concern of mine in the first game, was that they really don't give concrete objectives at the beginning of the plot. At least in the first 7 hours, I haven't seen anything. The only thing I really know so far is you gotta find lightning, and that's pretty much it. And I really don't like that as your main motivation in a JRPG. I mean, maybe if there's like something else going on at the same time, like fight the evil empire, and while you're doing that, find someone else, or find this missing person, or this guy's trying to destroy the world, can you find this other person to help us out, or whatever. That's okay. But when it's your main motivation in the game, that doesn't quite jive with me. It's not incredibly motivating because there's no specific objectives. It's like, how are we going to find them? It's not like, fight the evil empire. Okay, what do? Well, we got to dismantle this, we got to fight them here, we got to get this new metal to get armor for that, or whatnot. There's specific objectives, a logical progression. Whereas here, it's just, well, walk around, find these fragments to unlock gates or whatever, and hope that we find lightning, which it's not really motivating to me, to be honest. The puzzles in the game, now I've only seen the one, but they're okay. I mean, it just kind of comes out of nowhere, you do a puzzle, and then you move on with life. It kind of seems like an odd way to introduce a little puzzle to break up the tedium of walking around everywhere, but, well, whatever. Oh, and speaking of walking around everywhere, one thing I do like is that it doesn't take forever to do anything, which this is kind of like the first time that I've seen that in a 3D game, because most 3D RPGs, the world is so big and grand, and I guess a lot of people really like that, but it does take a long time to do anything in a lot of those games. But here, I mean, every 2 or 3 hours so far, I've been able to get through an area, so that's alright. I like how that's going so far. The side quests, I'm not particularly fond of. I mean, compared to the missions of the first game, where they're just boss kill quests, you do have other objectives in this game. They're more MMO-style side quests. So I guess it's different, but it's not really better. I mean, they do have some CP rewards, or like your ability points, so I guess it's better than getting some random trash loot or whatever, but like, for example, the side quest that I've done so far, there was the one boss kill quest, but then most of them are just kind of there. One of them was like, find a medical kit, or find these military experimental drugs. Find a key so this researcher can get in their desk and get their research notes. Find a flower for some dad to give to his daughter. And it's like, okay, why should I care, though? It doesn't really add anything to the lore of the game or anything like that, so I really don't care for the objectives of the game. It does nothing to advance the plot or anything, so I don't really care for how they handled the quest system. I mean, maybe that was okay back in 1999 when EverQuest was around and they started doing this sort of thing, but I mean, this is 2012. I mean, the side quest should be developing more background to the world and other NPCs and get me to start caring about the people around here, which it's not really doing that for me. The QTEs, I think, are pretty good in the game. They had them during the intro of the game and some boss battles and such, so they seem reasonably well paced. I've never had trouble reacting to them, and you know my reaction times are not that good. So I've been able to react to them all perfectly so far. So I'm fine with that. I'm not particularly fond of them during battles like that, but I mean, it's fine there. I like how they use them in the middle of FMVs and other cinematics, or cinematic actions, if you want to call it that. I like it how they do that there. So that way I'm not just setting my controller down for 15, 30 minutes watching a movie. I mean, if I wanted to watch a movie, I'd go watch a movie. I wouldn't be playing a video game. I mean, they call it the interactive entertainment industry for a reason, not so you can set your controller down and watch a movie. So I do like how they put the QTEs in there. I mean, they're nothing extraordinary. It's just, you know, they add it there just to break up the tedium a little bit. So I like that. But and then there's pretty much, that pretty much leaves the battle mechanics, which is pretty much the make or break for the game. It was like, the other things are, well, some things are good, some things not so good. The battle mechanics would really make or break the game, and I think they pretty much broke the game for me. The first thing that I really noticed was the lack of having Libra in the game, which I think is huge, and I don't know why they did that. I mean, what was one of the biggest complaints about the first game? You can't control your AI characters or anything like that. That's what a lot of people were saying about that. I was fine with it because you had Libra. You could use that, and then the side characters would do pretty much what you would want them to do anyway. So now they take that out, so you have less control over them. That doesn't exactly seem like the best plan. So I don't know what they were thinking with that. Now, there is a way to get the Libra effect, essentially. Just like the first game, you can fight an enemy, and if you hit them enough times, you'll gradually reveal more and more information about them. But the problem is that's pretty much the only way that you have to do it for the first 10 or so hours of the game. So there's other ways you can kind of get around that. Like, if your main character is a Ravager, you can enter in the commands manually, and then your secondary character, make them into a commando, so they'd pretty much be using attack or ruin anyway. So you can somewhat get around that problem a little bit, but it still really threw me off there. Now, from what I've heard, not too far from where I am now, there is an accessory I heard where if you kill an enemy, you basically get a Libra effect on them. So you don't have to fight several battles to get even the most basic information about an enemy. So I've heard, but that's like 10 hours into the game. I mean, can you imagine if in Final Fantasy 13 you didn't get Libra until Chapter 7? I mean, that would have been huge. So yeah, I'm not really fond of that. The other thing is the Crystarium, and they do make it a bit more open-ended, but pretty much you know what options you want to go for. I mean, you want to go for the ATB, you want to unlock your other Crystarium roles, and things like that. I mean, it's pretty obvious to do what you want to do in the Crystarium, and there's some things that they just really don't explain about it that threw me off until someone told me. The first thing is, when do the Crystarium expansions happen? I don't think they tell you in the tutorial or the instruction manual. I could be wrong. Maybe I glossed over it. I didn't see that. But how are you supposed to know? The way you're supposed to know is in-game, you can't really zoom out and see your whole Crystarium at once, which seems kind of odd. But there's basically like about 20 or so nodes until you get to the next Crystarium expansion, or however many there are. And basically what you're supposed to do is look all the way from one node to the next with the R3 button or whatever, and just keep on moving around until you get to the end. And once you get to the end of that, then you get an expansion, you get a whole bunch more nodes. So it was just kind of hard for me to plan things out, like, okay, well, how do I want to use all my nodes and abilities and CP before I get the next expansion, when I'll have even more decisions to make. So I wish that was made more clear. The other thing is what each of the nodes mean, and I don't think they explained it either, where there's basically small nodes, there's like a small one, and then there's a big node. And the small ones give you a small stat boost, the big ones give you a big stat boost. And if, depending on which job you assign to which node, will determine which stat boost you'll get. So let's say you use a commando on a big node, you get a big strength boost. If you use Ravager, you get a big magic boost. But then it gets even more convoluted, where it's like Saboteur. If it's on an even level, you get one stat boost. If it's on a odd level, you get a different stat boost. And then a different job has the same thing. And it's like, how are you supposed to know all this? And they never explained anything like that, at least not to my knowledge. So that kind of threw me off a bit too. And the other thing is the monster system. Now, if you're a huge Pokemon fan, then hey, more power to you. You'll probably love it. Me personally, I'm not fond of games that force you to use monsters in the game. I mean, like, let's say Dragon Quest V or the Final Fantasy Legend games, those were okay to me because you had the option whether to use them or not. Whereas here, you don't have the option. You have to use monsters in them. I just don't like the concept of monsters in an RPG in general. I mean, they add nothing to the plot, no character development, no lore. They're basically silent protagonists in a JRPG. I would rather have more human characters, more development, more motivation to why they're hanging around us and everything, why we're trying to band together to save the world or whatnot. And then recruiting them, now admittedly it is a little better in this game as opposed to reduce them to critical HP and then capture them, or however you do it in other RPGs like that. Here, you basically kill the monster, you have a chance of getting its crystal or whatever, and then you can use the monster in the future. Or for future battles. But sometimes the really good monsters are pretty rare to find. So you gotta, if you want to get them, you're gonna have to farm them for a really long time. And if you don't, you're gonna get stuck with a whole bunch of mediocre monsters. And I think the thing that really threw me off was that the Ravagers are just terrible early in the game. At least the first 7 hours they are. They're restricted to like 1, maybe 2 elements tops, so you have no flexibility whatsoever with them. And if you go into a battle with the wrong Ravagers, they're basically dead weight. You might as well have a commando there instead. So it's like, why bother having them around? And the medics aren't that great either. I heard the synergists get pretty good later in the game, but I haven't really seen too much of that yet. So, but just in general, I'm not really fond of monsters in the party of any RPG, and I thought, well, maybe 13.2 could change my mind, but it's pretty much the same as any other game that really uses them, except you have no choice. You have to use them, and I just really don't like that. So that's where I am in Final Fantasy 13.2. I haven't seen, like I said, I haven't seen the big bad yet after the intro. I heard that he's in the next area, so I don't know. Maybe that'll totally drastically change my mind about the game, but so far, it seems okay, but I'm not really motivated to keep playing the game right now. It's just, there's nothing extraordinarily bad about it, but there's nothing really great about it either. It's just kind of, there. I definitely like the first game better, so, well, I'll think about it whether I want to keep going or not, but there are a lot of other JRPGs coming out soon. I heard there's a couple Tales games coming out. I've never gotten into that series, so I don't know. Maybe I'll take a look at them or see some reviews, see what people say about them. Obviously, there's Xenoblade coming out this year, which from what I've heard is like designed for me, pretty much. So we'll see how that goes. But right now, I think I'm probably going to take a break from Final Fantasy 13.2 and move on to other things. This is HCBailly, signing off. Have a good day.